Hi, my name is Al Green. Not that one, but the struggling guy who was in the music industry for years trying to sell talent and songs to agents. The agents befriended me and taught me techniques that I want to pass on to you through my program, which is called You Can Talk, You Can Sell. Anyone who has ever taken this program has excelled in selling and either risen to the top of their company, their team, or the top of their field. It's called You Can Talk, You Can Sell, and you can get it right here. Why are you not working right now? You know, right now, there's over 8.5 million people that are out of work. That means unemployed. And there's some 10 million job openings. People are not going to work for several reasons. One of the main reasons is very simple. It's basically a hesitation of fear. Because what happens when you go to apply for a job? You have to put in an application. You got to put in a resume. You got to give your experience. You got to say if you went to college, if you got a high school education, or you have to basically show some experience. And then what happens? You got to go to an interview. Most intimidating thing. Nobody likes going to interviews. I hated going to interviews. I went into sales. I went into sales for a lot of different reasons. I started off in the music industry selling because I thought I could make stars out of people. I thought I could produce records and write hit songs. And I found out real quick that was the toughest thing. Instead, I was led into an industry where I could get a job where they needed people. So let's break down the real facts of what's going on in the job market. Yeah, there's lots of sales jobs out there. But how do you secure one without having to go through that process? Most people do not understand that when a company opens up their business, if they don't sell whatever it is they have, they're not going to be in business. That's it. Somebody comes up with a new idea, whether it's a business waxing surfboards or a business manufacturing custom socks. It doesn't really matter. A restaurant, it doesn't matter. You've got to sell whatever you have for your business. You have to sell it, otherwise you won't be in business. So you look for salespeople. You want to know a real fact. Salespeople are the hardest people in the world to find because most of them are hesitant. And a lot of times, if people go to a large company, they'll take the job just for the salary to get them through a couple of months. And the attrition rate is ridiculous. You have people that are ill-prepared. They're not really salespeople, but they take the job for the paycheck. They give it a shot. They wait for 2 months and then they leave and go on get a regular hourly job. I am not knocking hourly jobs. Hourly jobs are fine for a lot of people. But if you really want to get ahead, you can make a 6-figure income, which is a great income to be, especially if you're young. Or if you are not making it now and you want to boost your sales, you can do that by taking the course 6-figure selling system. That's part of the coaching program that I've got. Nevertheless, one of the things you want to do is this. Here's how easy it is to secure a job. Forget the application process. Forget looking for a resume or even having a college education. I have met people that I used to use the word escape, but they graduate from college with a business degree, a bachelor degree in business. Very, very, very little effect on learning to sell because it's not really always part of it. You can do better going to work for Google and learning through the Google University how to sell. But you have to be creative there too. However, how do you get and secure a good sales job? I'll tell you where there's markets and where they need people. If you go into any large company that hires people, chances are They've got salespeople out in the field, and that's what you want to look for. Those industries are communications such as AT&T, Frontier, Spectrum, Bright House. A lot of these companies need people to go to the outside world and either knock doors or visit companies and try, and I say try, but that's not the reason why you take the job, to make sales, to bring in the sales that they're not getting through online or advertising. But that's not going to tell you how to get a job. Where else is a place where they have a really, really hard time finding people? And it's not that hard to get a job if you're willing to follow some simple steps. If you go into any major city that has apartments, you're going to find apartment buildings that have anywhere from 200 to 2,400, even 4,200, 4,800 units. Those people need managers. And yeah, you could probably get a job there as a porter. You could probably get a job there as a painter. But let's talk sales, because sales is where you make the money. Whenever you get a sales job, you can always find a job that's got a salary plus commission. I recommend commission only because you make more money. But where are these places? Go into any city, look for a big apartment complex. You'll find them in every city in America practically. And you go into the leasing office. It's very simple. They need leasing agents. And there's two things that happen to leasing agents. For one thing, once they get their job, they usually stay there for a long period of time and get moved to another property where they're needed, or they get promoted to managership. But very few of them last for a short period of time. Everyone that I've ever met that was a leasing agent, because I used to sell to leasing agents, had been there for 4, 5, 6, 7 years, making a very nice income. They would get a salary plus a commission. A lot of times if they live there, they get a break on the rent. Not every company is going to do that. But then they get offered jobs as regional reps. They get offered jobs in the main office. They get jobs as auditors, and they move up the company ladder. That's not what I'm talking about doing. You can do that if you want to. But I've met people that would take a very temporary job, go to work there, and be asked to stay on a basis of mainly leasing apartments. Years ago, I met a young woman. She was about 22. She had no business experience whatsoever. Now, a lot of the apartment places, they don't care if you have a lot of experience. If you have college on your application, on your resume, it does look good because it means you did the same thing for a few years. But she applied for a job during the summertime at a place that was offering $200 commission for every lease that she wrote to put somebody in an apartment. This apartment complex had about 450 apartment units. They were shorthanded in the office. They couldn't get anyone to work because of the fact that most of the people that they had gone on to other properties. They were hired away by competitive companies, or they were asked to move to a different city, a bigger city, for more money. So they had left openings, and they kept interviewing people because those people went through the typical job hunt, the typical resume where they host a website to go to and apply for a job, and they get 150 applications a week. And then by the time this young lady decided to apply, she was up against, they had a collection of something like 1,100 resumes. And they could have chosen anyone they wanted. But she walked in at that moment, and she did the right thing. She asked to speak to the manager of the complex. And she basically said this. She said, look, I'm real good with people, because that's really all they need. I can talk to people. Would you happen to have a need for anybody to work in the office to show apartments? Now, out of that 450 units that they had about 35 vacancies. Now, in that market, that's a big number. And they want to fill those apartments as quickly as possible. So although you won't find this every day, they offered $200 per person for each person that was placed into a lease. It involves talking to the people, finding out what they want, walking them to the apartment and showing it to them, explaining the amenities at the complex and the security and all of the details that you need when you're leasing an apartment. Without any previous knowledge, I met her on a Wednesday. She had been there for 2 days. That weekend, she placed 11 leases. So she made a commission on the very first week she was there of about $2,200 plus her starting salary, which was above what most people make by the hour. Today, I'm sure it's probably around a salary of around $18 an hour. I'm not sure, I'm pretty much guessing, but for a lot of people, that's enough just to go to work and take the job. Now what happens is you learn while you're on the job, because they might ask you, do you have any experience? Yeah, I'm really good with people. And you can talk about anything you've done with people, whether it was working at a record store or a music store, whatever. It doesn't really matter. They don't really care as long as you're willing to learn their method and go to work every day. They do want some air of professionalism, but you don't have to look all corporate and put on a suit and tie. You don't have to put on a very expensive outfit. You can just look like an average person who's working and just be pleasant with people. The next week, I went to go talk to that manager, and the manager told me this new gal we hired was unbelievable. I can't believe her. She doesn't know anything. She's just talking to people. That's all she's doing. And in my sessions that I teach called You Can Talk, You Can Sell, I teach the art of discussing business with people and selling. It's the art of selling, basically. But anybody can take one of these jobs. It's a very, very simple idea. Anybody can learn to sell anything, but not everybody can sell anything. If you have a market that you like, let's say, for example, you have an interest in clothing, fashion, you have an interest in insurance, or you have an interest in the arts that require somebody to go in there. Having been involved in a lot of different markets, I can tell you, sales are sales, and no matter what you've been doing, you've been selling your whole life. You may not know it, but when you're trying to convince your parents that you want to go out for the weekend and have some extra money, you're going to probably negotiate some kind of a way to be able to get it done. A lot of us have done that. That's kind of selling. And anybody can learn the techniques that are taught in the coaching program, and they can learn how to propel themselves to 6 figures or more. I'll tell you what happens to a lot of these people and what happened to this young lady. Now, that was about 8 years ago. She is now managing another complex. A complex that doesn't have as many units, but is a very upscale complex. When they rise to the level of manager, I can guarantee you it's at least 6 figures, and mainly it's an administration job. But a lot of people take it because look at the money. They usually get a great deal on an apartment, and they have a lot of things that they have to do that are part of the job, but they get their weekends off, and other people do all the grunt work. And that's just because they took that one niche market because it was an easy thing to do. But I'll be honest with you, most people will tell you they don't want to work in sales. I don't know why they're so intimidated by it, because if you talk to most people, they can talk to you. When you go out with your friends, you guys are all talking. As long as you're talking, you can use your personality and various very simple techniques to construct your own way of working so that you too can sell. It's really a very simple thing to do. In future lessons, we can talk about other markets and ways that you can get a job. Anybody can do this. You can go, for example, I'll give you one more idea. You want to sell cars? Go to a car dealership of cars you like, say BMWs or whatever, and just ask for the sales manager. Don't apply for a job, just ask to talk to the sales manager. Introduce yourself, get the sales manager's name, make good eye contact when you're talking, and say these simple words. I really like that model. I really like this blue one over here. See that one? That's a great looking car. How many of those would I have to sell for you so I could get one for free? Usually what's going to happen is that sales manager is going to turn to you and say, who are you again? And you're going to say your name. You ever think about going into car sales? I've seen it happen with clothiers. You sell something like side divorce suits that are, $2,000. You go into one of the stores and you say, look, I really like this suit. I like this shark skin suit. I know you can customize it to my size. How many of those would I have to sell so I can get one for free? It doesn't matter what the market is. That approach to the sales manager, the guy who's in charge of the salespeople, that approach gets their attention and they're thinking, this is the kind of person I need that's aggressive enough to have that conversation. Meanwhile, you're bypassing the application process and you're bypassing the interview because they're going to interview you right there on the spot or they'll ask you to come back. No college required. You don't even have to have a high school education. If you don't want to, you don't have to have that. The internet right now and the bookstores are filled with books of super successful salespeople who never even graduated high school. And they're going to tell you their stories. I want you to have that story too. Stay tuned. You'll find it in the six-figure selling system.